If you're thinking about selling your house, you've probably started doing this: walking room to room and mentally spending money. Paint that, replace this, fix the window, I need new carpet, let's renovate our bathroom and update our kitchen, and while we're at it, let's go ahead and fix that deck. And suddenly you've somehow convinced yourself you need to spend $40,000 before you're even allowed to put a for sale sign in the yard. But here's the good news: you probably don't. But that doesn't mean doing nothing is always the smartest answer either. Sometimes fixing something before you sell makes a ton of sense. Sometimes you're better off leaving it alone. And sometimes spending $20,000 fixing something could actually leave you with less money. So today we're going to use a very simple framework that I use: fix it, credit it, or price around it. I'm not here to tell you that you have to renovate your house so I can sell it. That's not how I want to do real estate. I like to do real estate with clarity, not pressure. So let's figure out which projects actually make sense first. I'm Dan Winters, I'm a realtor here in the Twin Cities, and let's get into it. First, we need to clarify the phrase "as is," because homeowners sometimes hear that and think, great, I don't have to tell anyone anything, take it or leave it. But that's not what I mean. Minnesota law generally requires residential sellers to disclose material facts that they know about the home that could significantly and adversely affect an ordinary buyer's use or enjoyment of the property. There are exceptions and transaction-specific nuances, so obviously this isn't legal advice. But the simple takeaway is this: as is does not mean secret. It means we're making a decision about the condition in which you're willing to sell the property. You might say, here's the condition, here's what we know, I'm simply not planning to remodel or repair everything before I sell. That's a completely different idea. And now we can actually talk strategy. Whenever I'm walking through a house with a homeowner and we see something that could potentially need attention, I put it into one of three buckets. Bucket 1, fix it. Do the work before listing. Bucket 2, credit it. Depending on the situation, leave the item alone and potentially address it financially in the transaction. Bucket 3, price around it. Acknowledge the condition and position the house accordingly. And I don't start with what could we possibly renovate. I start with, what outcome are we trying to create? Are we trying to maximize money, minimize the hassle, sell quickly, avoid contractors, get the home into condition where more buyers can consider it? Those goals can lead to completely different decisions. That's why clarity has to come before action. I'm usually a big fan of fixing something when the cost is relatively low, but the buyer reaction is disproportionately negative. Think about little maintenance items: a dripping faucet, loose cabinet hardware, burned out light bulbs, a door that may not latch, a broken or damaged switch plate, peeling paint, interior or exterior. None of these things automatically destroys the value of your house. But if buyers encounter 15 of them, something changes psychologically. They start wondering, what else hasn't been taken care of? And that is the problem. A $150 repair can sometimes prevent a $10,000 feeling. That's not something you're going to find neatly on remodeling ROI charts. But buyer perception matters. Now, let's talk about the opposite end. Your kitchen is 25 years old. It's dated, but it's clean, functional. Nothing is falling apart. And you think, well, if I'm selling, I should probably remodel it. So now we're talking about tens of thousands of dollars. My question that I would ask, why? Not because updating the kitchen wouldn't make it prettier. It probably would. But we're not trying to win a kitchen design competition. We're trying to determine whether the additional amount buyers may pay is greater than the amount you're going to spend on that kitchen remodel. And there's another problem. You're choosing cabinets, counters, flooring, hardware, colors for a buyer that you've never met and hasn't seen your home yet. Maybe they love your choices. Maybe they'd rather have received a lower price and remodeled it themselves. This is exactly where homeowners can spend a lot of money because they feel like they're supposed to do it. I don't want you doing that. I want us to understand the likely return first. There are plenty of situations where selling largely in the home's existing condition makes sense. Maybe you've owned it for 30 years. Maybe you're relocating. Maybe you inherited it. Maybe you don't have time or the appetite to manage contractors. Maybe the house is just simply dated. There's a huge difference between dated and unmarketable. Your house doesn't have to look like a new construction model home to sell, but there is a trade-off. If you don't want to spend the money, time, or energy making certain improvements, buyers may account for those improvements in their offers, and that's okay. The question isn't, can I avoid fixing this? You often can. The question is, what does avoiding it cost me? Because once we know that, you can actually make a very well-informed decision. That's clarity. And then you get to choose. This is the framework I really want you to remember. Let's say you've got something that costs $20,000 to fix. Most homeowners immediately think, well, the house needs a $20,000 repair, but I'm interested in something else. How much will the market penalize you if you leave it alone? Imagine leaving the problem unresolved only decreases your likely sales price by around $10,000. Would you want to spend $20,000 to potentially recover $10,000? Probably not. But let's go ahead and flip that. Imagine there's a problem that costs $8,000 to correct, but leaving it unresolved scares away a huge chunk of buyers and makes them treat the house like it's worth $25,000 or $30,000 less. Now we've got a very different conversation. So don't just ask, what does it cost to fix? Ask, what does it cost not to fix? That's the decision. There's one more thing sellers tend to miss. Condition doesn't only change your price. It can change who is willing or able to buy the house. There are buyers who want projects, and there are buyers who absolutely don't. Some buyers have cash reserves to deal with work after closing, others don't. And depending on the issue, property condition can sometimes interact with financing, insurance, inspection, or appraisal concerns. So there are cases where a repair doesn't necessarily produce a neat spend $5,000, increase value $7,000. Instead, the benefit may be more buyers can comfortably consider the property. That's still valuable. This is probably the part I care about the most. If you're thinking about selling your Twin Cities home sometime in the next 6 to 12 months, please don't assume you need to start remodeling tomorrow before you spend $10,000 or $30,000 or $70,000. Get clear on what buyers are likely to expect at your price point. What do the competing homes look like? What are buyers rewarding? What are they ignoring? What genuinely hurts your house? And what have you stared at for 15 years that buyers might barely care about? Because homeowners are often much harder on their own houses than buyers are. I'd rather walk through your house before the renovation and tell you, here's where I'd spend the money and here's where I wouldn't. Then walk through after you spent $40,000 and say, you probably didn't need to do half of this. That's what real estate looks like with clarity, not pressure, put into practice. So if you're standing in your house wondering, what the heck do I actually need to do before I sell this? Start with the 3 buckets. Fix it, credit it, price around it. Then look at money, time, convenience, buyer reaction, and your own priorities. There isn't automatically one right answer, and I'm not interested in handing you a giant checklist of renovations just so your house looks prettier. If you're thinking about moving, I'm happy to walk through the house with you and help separate what matters from what probably doesn't. Then you get to decide what makes the most sense. That's the whole philosophy. Real estate with clarity, not pressure. Because sometimes the smartest pre-sale renovation is the one that you decide not to do.